Sarah, are you happy to be back in the building at school? Or you guys are back 4 days a week?
No, we're back 2 days. I'm at the middle school. So, but I mean, the kids are back 2 days. I guess I'm there.
Teachers are there 4 days or 5. I didn't.
Yeah. Well, like Wednesdays, it's kind of an optional if you want to work from home or work at school, because all of our meetings are Zooms. So there's not actually enough rooms to have everyone in a room by themselves on a Zoom. So I'm not going to sit all day in a mask on Zooms. So, but no, it's been pretty good. It's nice seeing the kids. And the kids I work with are typically the ones who always had a black box, and I never saw them. So it's been really good.
Can everyone see the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
They're actually having a special board meeting, I think right now, to talk about moving forward with schools.
What are they thinking?
I think the plan right now is that elementary will go 4 days a week on April 19th. But they want to have a conversation about increasing middle and high school.
Okay. Exciting.
All right, looks like we're at 6 o'clock. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order, Parks and Recreation and Conservancy Committee for call to order for Monday, March 15th, 2021. Are you recording, Mike?
I am.
All right, so we'll start with a roll call. Staff, we have Mike Axon, myself, Sarah Francois, whoops, and Sarah Borkert.
Here.
Jed Henry.
Here.
Melissa Hintz.
Here.
And absent is Jennifer Bonte. Not missing anyone, am I?
No.
All right, we'll start with public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the committee on any issues either on or not on the current agenda. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issues that are not duly noted on the agenda.
Can I make public comment, please? This is Michael.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Hello, committee. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I know you guys are looking at the sign policy tonight. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I know in the current policy as presented, a lot of the signs look like they're 6 to 8 feet in length, and on previous policy might have been 5 to 6. I'm just saying that as you make these signs longer, their cost is going to go up. And an 8-foot long sign is a very long sign. Going out and looking at a lot of the parks signs in the village, a lot of them aren't over 5 feet and a few are 6, but an 8-foot long sign is just a long sign. And getting into that, you know, if these signs are going to cost about $2,000 to $2,500 each, at 27, you're looking at an outlay of $54,000. Granted, this can happen over multiple years, but you have to consider where this $54,000 might be spent differently, especially inside of parks. There's a new park going in Bear Park that has just over $50,000 in its parkland dedication. Spending $2,000 to $2,500 out of $50,000, you're consuming 4 to 5% of your budget on your sign alone. Whereas that money could be spent placing trees, picnic tables, etc. in there. The policy doesn't go into a cost breakdown exactly, and it doesn't really say what the signs are going to be made out of. But you might want to consider a least expensive option, something like what the village currently has, where, you know, they're just wooden signs. You could place the village logo. You could have metal signs made with the village logo, and then you attach those to the wood. There are just other options. I mean, these signs look great, but you're trying to improve parks, and improving parks think is equipment, amenities, trees, benches, etc. These signs can become expensive. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. Do we have any other public comments?
Can I just interrupt that Jennifer Bonte's trying to get into the Zoom, but
Yeah, it won't let me. See if she's able to get in there. It doesn't like pop up like, oh, it's behind it. Sorry. Technology. I think she's coming on now.
okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
about
Hi. Good.
Mike, do we have any other public comments?
I do not.
We'll move on to reports. Starting with myself, this is my last Parks, Recreation, Aquatics, and Conservancy Committee meeting. So it's been a really great experience to be a part of this, and just to see all the movement and things that are happening. And I thank you, Mike, and all your staff. You guys just work tirelessly, and it's just wonderful to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Any committee members have reports? Okay, we'll move on to you, Mike.
All right. Well, first and foremost, Trustee Francois, I'd like to thank you officially, as this being your last meeting, being just instrumental for our department, being a voice, a positive voice to the village board, but also all the constituents that you represented. I feel like you've done a wonderful job. You've seen some great projects come to fruition in Glacial Valley Playground, the mountain biking, mixed-use mountain biking trail that was put in, the trail, or the after-school club, and just different programs that you've been instrumental in helping us get to bring to our community and to make it a positive influence for that. So I'm grateful for your time on here as a committee member, and hopefully you're not a stranger and we still see you around, and or maybe you become a citizen member now on one of these committees moving forward. But I'm just grateful. Thank you very much for helping me, my professionalism and just bringing more stuff to our community each day. So thank you for that, and enjoy your retirement. Outside of that, I do have my report that's included in there, included in the packet itself. Last month in general has been just we've had some nice weather, so it's been trying to put all of our winter stuff away, get a bunch of our trails and other park areas cleaned up and open up for the community. Just yesterday we had, so I should start that over. We do monthly playground inspections at all of our playgrounds. We even do that throughout the winter, just checking bolts and making sure, especially areas that are high usage areas. The Glacial Valley Park playground, we knew that we wanted to try and do something different with, or we were going to have to try and do more inspections on it. And we did an inspection on Thursday. Actually, we did it on Tuesday, did another one on Thursday of just different areas, tightening bolts. And then yesterday, I got a text message that the gravity rail swing was broken and it was laying in the wood chips there. So luckily, we were able to get the swing back. Logan was over there and had picked it up. But it kind of just shows us, obviously, with that playground getting so much use, kids, especially with that type of equipment, are using it in ways they maybe shouldn't have, or there are a number of kids, on it at one time, is my guess is kind of what had happened. But the pin on it had broke with the two, there's two screws that go in it, and the pin between it, and one of the screws had busted off and the pin broke itself. So we contacted Miracle, or contacted Borland, who sold us the equipment, just kind of asking questions. Do you see this happening often? Sent them pictures. I didn't receive anything back yet, but just kind of shows, obviously, with all the use and people getting out, it was good that we went and did the inspection, and then that still happened. So what we've talked about now is implementing it where we either check it daily or we check it at least that equipment. We check the gravity rail daily. And then we check the entire equipment there with all the use it's getting weekly is our plan, at least for the start of the spring as we get rolling here, just to make sure that we don't have any issues kind of like jumping out at us. So
how often do you check the parks?
yeah,
Even
so we do inspections once a month. So it's usually the first Thursday or Friday of the month of that month is we try and do an inspection those 2 days. And then for the Glacial Valley one, we're gonna, the problem I think we're gonna find out is that we're gonna have a lot of people using that playground. So we're gonna have to find a time, whether it be like a Tuesday morning from 8 to 9, that it's closed, because it's not easy to do inspections when there's kids around or even it's in use. So, but we'll try and get out a formal, message to everybody, maybe even some signs that sit up, just letting them know that it'll be closed every Tuesday from 8 to 9 is kind of our plan going forward. So, all right. Any questions with that at all? The Bear Park Playground Visioning Session is tomorrow night. I do have a full agenda that we'll have for the meeting tomorrow night. I don't know how many of you plan to attend. Obviously, you don't have to. If you'd like to be a part of it, Jed, I know, and Sarah, being in the neighborhood, if you'd like to be a part of it, that's great. I have like a sheet that everyone will get that signs up or that's part of it. They'll have their name and their address on it. And then they can click on the different links, go to those pages, and then put the link actually back down on the page and then just submit their page to me via email. I found that that'd probably be the easiest way. My plan is to be on at least from 6:30 to 7:30. So it's an hour. I'll be on there about an hour long to answer any questions that anyone has, and also to distribute the sheets. And then I'll have the sheets on our village website and Facebook page for the community to take into for the next few weeks. So then we can make a new discussion on this at the next committee meeting. Lastly, just obviously you saw I was in the meeting with Dane County Public Health. I was actually in another meeting with them today, trying to pick up like more about the swimming pool for this summer and what are the parameters that we're going to have to be in play. They went to 500 people as a gathering limit for an event, which everyone was really excited about. However, our swimming pool, so like swim team events or even swimming lessons are considered an event. So everything like that is an event, whereas open swim is just considered it's a facility use. So that's where all the questions were kind of coming in, and everyone was curious on, what is considered what, because the events allow for up to 500 people outdoor, and the capacity for facilities are at 50%. So that's a big difference for us as a village with our swimming pool. And what I came out with today is that if your facility is licensed, any event can't go above the maximum amount that you are allowed in that space for your facility. So whatever it's licensed at. So our license for that facility is 302. So we'll be allowed 151 people within that facility. And what they're saying is, even though the people, let's say spectators and all of them aren't a part of the pool, they're outside the fence, they're, in the grass, they're in the playground, they're in those areas, the whole facility is counted towards that event. So the maximum amount of people that will be allowed currently with the current order would be 151 people at the Cross Plains swimming pool at and or around. So I sent a message to Emily, just kind of letting her know this is the update. This is kind of where we're at. That's the only real big change that hopefully, it obviously could affect them, but hopefully, with where the numbers are going, everything, kind of levels out and the numbers increase exponentially anyways, or they allow us to go to our full maximum numbers. So that's it. Any questions at all?
I assume, Mike, you're going to be working then on how to, and you sort of alluded to that, but trying to figure out then how you'll manage that this summer with the pool. Because you're basically looking at the whole block then, or that, to try and manage that whole area, which is not easily done
right
from inside the pool building.
What's really interesting And you know, it all comes down to how we want to police it as well. All it takes is one, person that lives near or is around there saying, if you can't count 150 people anyways, right? That you're going to see a lot of people, especially now not being used to that, and they're going to, probably jump the gun on it. But the big thing is, it's like how we want to police it. We obviously want people to stay safe. We want people to keep distance. Any event that has 50 people, whether it's inside or I should say, even if it's outdoors, if there's at least 50 people at that event, there has to be masks worn. So, at least that will be in compliance in regards to that. But, people walking by, even with their dogs, don't technically count as a person that's at the event. So I was like, okay, well, what if people are going to go to the playground that aren't a part of the event? They said, well, technically they're not counted. And I said, well, how are we supposed to regulate this, with all the different groups that are coming through? So that's where, I think if there were 200 people and everyone is keeping their distances, I don't see it being an issue from, our standpoint, just because how are we going to really, like you're saying, how are we going to regulate that? However, the teams, anybody that does rent the facility or even rents the park shelters has to come up with a plan on how they plan to regulate their numbers for us. So they have to submit that plan to us, just like we did last summer for all of our programming and events. But this time we just need it in regards to how they're gonna plan to keep people safe, but also how they're gonna clean touch points that everyone is being a part or could be touching. And the last thing is hygiene. What's the other one? I'm trying to think. Oh, the one thing they did take away was contact tracing, which is kind of helpful for us. Mainly, I was wondering how we were going to do, the opening of the swimming pool again, if we were going to have to do membership only or punch cards within that. I think we found a good hybrid option there, but it also is, not having to contact trace everybody that's coming through the facility should help us, negate some of the issues that we had within that process last summer. So, but it's just, it's going to be trial and error. A lot of everyone was on the call today, and everyone kept, putting in messages or sending messages to one of us, like, how are we supposed to do this? They're almost making it harder now as restrictions are loosening for us than it even was last summer. But I'm optimistic, more in the sense that the numbers are decreasing, obviously, with the number of cases, the number of vaccines that Wisconsin's had. I saw it was 2 million. Tim and I were talking about that before the meeting started. So obviously a lot of people are getting vaccinated currently, and hopefully we can, by then we got another 2.5, 3 months until we open. So hopefully we're even further along.
So Mike, go ahead.
Sorry. You can do full capacity swimming lessons?
So as long as we stay under 151 people inside the pool vessel, we can do swimming lessons without any restrictions on how many kids we have in a level, how many kids are in a lane together. They don't want to give restrictions on any of those things. So that's good. Now it's more of how we want to make sure everyone's safe, obviously staff wise, and the kids themselves. They do have to wear a mask when they're on the deck, but then once they enter the swimming pool, they do not need a mask, nor do lifeguards at any time. So while they're in the water, no masks are needed, no face shields are needed as well. So it's kind of a plus for us.
Do you, based on the current guidelines, do you see yourself allowing the pool house to be open, at least during a facilities kind of, not event, but whatever, during the facility time versus the event time?
So I still plan, I still, as of right now, we would plan to open the facility with people entering the gate like they did last year, and exiting the gate like they did last year, and leaving the restroom, as a, when you have to use it type thing. That's not a guideline of which they're telling you have to do. Obviously you could come through the doors, but they would like it that you don't mix the traffic. So I was saying, like, with our facility, that's impossible. It's really narrow doorways, there aren't any extra entrances and exits. So the plan as of now would be to enter and exit just like we did last summer. And actually that worked out really well. Ask patrons to, please come with your suits on. You can always change before you leave, but please come with your suits on. It just makes things a lot easier for everyone coming in. So that's kind of the plan as of now, unless things do change even further. The other thing is, and which I'll bring to the committee's attention next month, once we know more. They didn't have a whole lot to say about concessions. Now they're saying that food, if you have food for an event or a facility, you just have to meet your licensing requirements, and that there aren't any, it doesn't bring down the numbers anymore. It used to be if it was even an outdoor event and you had food, you had have less people at that event. So now they've taken that away for outdoor events, of which that's considered. The issue we'd have is where our concession stand is located is at the front of the building. So how do we get people to go to just get concessions there and not walk through the building or go into the building for entrance? So it's more about that, like trying to keep that distance with them. So they kind of figure that out.
For the sports thing, so 6 feet physical distancing is required at all times. So does that mean like baseball couldn't happen, or?
No, it can happen. So the 6 feet of physical distancing has to happen. Or they're obviously it's something that they're pushing is to keep the 6 feet of social distancing. If you can't keep 6 feet of social distancing, you have to be masked.
Oh,
and then it also limits the amount. If you have an event that people can't keep physical distancing, it limits the amount of people that can be there, especially for indoor use. So, like I said, hopefully a lot of these things change by summer. Our activity guide went out to the printer today, so we have everything set. So, if we do have to change it now, it's more lessen the restrictions within our program guidelines than having to just cancel it. So that's exciting. And baseball, all of those programs we have in our activity guide as running, it's more of like, how are they going to run? Where are we going to go with that? So within the baseball program, we are doing a cool thing with the Madison Mallards. They reached out to us. They are donating hats for each of the kids that are in baseball or softball for us this year. They have our Cross Plains Park and Rec logo on the front, and then they have a Madison Mallard on the side. And there may be another logo on it, but they were all donated, all part of the Mallard program of being free to us. So it's pretty cool event, pretty cool option, something we've never done here. And we are doing a community event to try and help them as well. So bring people out to their facility for a game, possibly in June. So it's exciting.
Mhm.
Any questions at all? Anything else in regards to?
Are you going to go through the other items in your report too?
You want me to? I can.
Yeah.
If you have questions about any of them. Obviously, whoops, sorry. I'm on the wrong one. Got to go back. All right. Lions Legacy Project, actually, it's a good call. Lions Legacy Project. We had a meeting on Thursday, and so Bill Chang, Jay, I, and then most of the Lions committee, kind of talking about next step, like where do we go from here? The discussion was that there'd be a new committee formed. The committee would be more of a fundraising committee, but it'd also be a committee that kind of pushes the concept and where we want to go with this project, what it could be. Those concepts would still be brought back to the Parks and Recreation Committee for approval, and then us, obviously the village board for approval. But since they would be the ones that are going out to do the fundraising, which is going to be a large portion of this project, we obviously, Jay and Bill and I thought that it would be best for them to, work with Snyder on the next step or the next phase for the concept aspect of this. So, but it will be brought to the Parks Committee, it will be brought to all of you, obviously, for approval for the village board once we get to that point. So that's where that project's going. I talked about the playground visioning. After school club is still going strong. It's been really popular. We still have 12 kids signed up for it, with a number of people contacting us now that school is going into full session or looking to go to more days of the week. And the summer day camp, there's been a lot of people contacting about summer day camp to ask if we're going to be able to offer it and when our activity guide will be coming out. So which takes me to the next point is our activity guide. Our plan was to get it out next week. And right now, hopefully it gets in your mailbox by Monday or Tuesday of next week. That's what I asked them to do. Hopefully we get there. We got a lot of really good programming, new programming. We got a mermaid program that's going to be at the pool. Just kind of tell you about a few of them. We have dance coming back with Miss Michelle and Darcy. So both of them will be teaching for us. And then also Hannah Stotts will be teaching as well. Trying to think without looking. I don't have it open right now. So, but those are just a few of them that are in there. We were able to condense it a little bit more. It's 20 pages rather than 24. Mainly took out some of the private stuff that was in there that no one advertised or did different things for. So we were able to break it down, which brought our costs down a little bit too. So, but that's the cover. That is what it looks like. So that you should look for. It should be in your mailbox hopefully next week. I think that's the last thing.
Okay, looking for.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. 1 second. One other thing. So within our registration, it would have been not last year, or it would have been for last year. We wanted to talk about doing a resident only sign up and then a non-resident sign up. So in the activity guide, we did do signups begin March 30th for residents, and we did signups begin March 31st for non-residents. So I did that without asking you tonight, but I figured since we did it in last year's and it was something that we really discussed, especially about dance and other programming. Obviously, we wanted to make sure that residents with dance, with Michelle coming back, I'm guessing it could be pretty popular. So I wanted to make sure that our residents in town did get it first on obviously what you guys had brought to us last year. So sound good?
What are the dates on that again? You said sign up.
Yep, sign up begins March 30th, which is a Tuesday, I believe, for residents, and then the 31st of March for non-residents. So just a 24-hour advance. 8 a.m. will be the start time for them both. So.
You're looking for a motion to approve the minutes of February 15th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th.
Okay, we have
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Discussion and possible action regarding a sign policy for the village parks and open space.
All right. In the packet you found, hopefully you were able to find my memo. Following a lot of discussion and a lot of meetings where this is going back and forth within us, but also at the village board level. Obviously, Michael had discussed things tonight. He had also brought it up at the village board meeting, of which a lot of times people have been discussing consistency being an issue and wanting to make sure that we're keeping consistency. Actually, even Michael had talked about that. And so what I had done is kind of looked through the last few meetings that we've had regarding signs, and tried to establish a policy and/or guidelines for a sign policy for the Parks Department based on everybody's discussion. I kind of went backwards than where we were before. I'm trying to figure out why do we want new signs? Our Parks and Open Space Plan called for new signs in our parks. That was one of the first things that residents in our community brought up. Are these signs, when you walk into them, look dumpy? We have painted them since then, so I think they look a little bit better, but a lot of them get weathered and obviously show their age quite often. So I tried to kind of go back and look at different ways that we wanted, or things that we wanted as a group and or committee and department and village, if we were to have some guidelines put forward. So the first thing I thought about was we wanted to do these signs to establish a recognizable identity, right? We wanted to brand, graphic, aesthetic for the lands managed by the Village Parks Department. One of the biggest things that this village talks about is not having an identity. I personally feel that parks and or open space outdoor recreation is our village's identity. It may not be, currently thrown out there that's our identity, but I do believe that that is where we are going. Like I look at the mountain biking course, I look at the, 10-foot wide boardwalk, the trails, Xander Park. If you go through Xander Park, you don't see any play equipment. You don't see any, normal park activities, but you see people being active, right? And that's the whole part of our community and quality of life. So getting new signage and being able to brand that as our reason to come to our community, I think is important. It's also one of the big things that the whole downtown revitalization had called for is branding our community. So obviously, I think if it weren't for street signs, parks, open space, conservancies would be the only places in our community that actually have signs. So I think that it should be something when we're trying to bring people to our community, it's able to flash at them and say, hey, we respect our community, we respect our parks, we respect you coming to them, and we want to show them off to you. Development of sign standards was key in that, I think, as well. We talked about that, just trying to, we had Tim do a lot of work, and I know you guys approved his one sign in there. And I do appreciate everything he's done up to this point, because it did get me to where I am now, I feel, or where we are now. But the development of sign standards and making sure that they're cohesive across the board is obviously a big, important part of that. And then creation of a comprehensive signage system, making sure that all the community parks and conservancies are the same, but also the regulations of what people can do in those parks, or what they can't do. For instance, the other day, actually, Dane and I went and Dane, I should say, picked up like a 5-gallon pail of dog poop all along Xander Park, Mill Creek Parkway area. 5-gallon pail was full, and we're not even done. So making sure that that signage is obviously vibrant, but also not hideous, and that it's in the areas that these signs, that these welcoming signs would be a part of as well. So I just put in there for the executive summary, like a compliance with the guidelines will ensure that signage is coordinated and consistent throughout the village across plains, parks, open space, and trails. That's obviously the key goal and or welcoming, going down to the furthering part is obviously our objective. So Sarah and I had a really good conversation roughly a month ago or so about, trying to get back on track and making sure that we're doing this the right way, and having more discussion on this with all of you, and also like having something to go off of kind of as we move forward. So if I were to leave, obviously you see Sarah leaving, if any of you were to leave the committee, knowing that, we're not just throwing signs up and throwing, we have some conformity, and we have something that we want to see in new parks as they come into our village. We have a new development going on right now out at the Shep Farm. Scenic Valley is the development. We actually have 2 parks in that area, along with I can't remember exactly the conservancy acreage, but a large amount of conservancy there as well. So as we get parkland dedication money as it's coming in, I think it's a good time to update those signs, update our signage throughout our parks and open space. And as Michael had talked about earlier, it's going to cost money. I'm not saying it's not going to cost money. I have shown that we have money in our current budget that would account for 1 sign a year. Now, does that take 27 years? It does. But I really do feel that there will be other opportunities out there to update as we go on. And as new parks come in, it's really easy to update at that point. So my recommendation for this was, recommend that we approve this as a guideline. It would be an internal policy. It would go to the village board. I would ask that to go to the village board for them to obviously have the same type of discussion or have discussion on. But I think it's a good start. It's not, you're not saying that we're going to do these all right away. We're not saying that, you're going to have to put $55,000 into an account, that we're going to have to do it all at once. One thing that I know that Michael had talked about was the costs and how that could be used for other things. But we have $2,500, literally $2,500 earmarked for signage. So now that we have all of our signage for dogs on leash, dogs not in our playgrounds, we have those already in place. I think it's time to look to update our other ones that are in our community and in our parks. So.
Does anyone want to start with a motion and then we can open for discussion?
So I'll make a motion to open for discussion our sign policy, Parks and Recreation sign policy. Is that what I'm making a motion for?
We make a motion to either approve or deny or not approve the Parks and Open Space and trail signage guidelines as presented. And then if when the motion is on the table, then we can discuss it.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve Parks and Recreation Department's proposed sign policy.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so open for discussion.
Mike, what resources did you use to design the sign policy, or even the examples, the sample signage that you put in the materials?
Yep. So Salt Lake City has a really good policy. A lot of your big cities have some really good policies that are actually part of their entire, it's their community ordinance. Madison also was one that I had referenced. Yeah, those are the main two that I kind of reference as points of interest. The 2 feet by 8 feet and the 2 feet by 6 feet. So the signs, like how the size of them, I actually did off the National Recreation and Park Association. So they kind of give out different guidelines of where, how large your sign should be, depending on whether it's a wayfinding sign or it's a memorial sign. It gives different sizes that they give for recommendations. So.
How did you come up with the $2,500 a year? Did you ask somebody to cost out?
No. So
So
how my budget used to be set up was parks maintenance itself was different line items. So there was a park maintenance line item that was $5,000, but then there was also a signage budget. So it used to be more broken out to have different line items for them. So it was earmarked more or less for those, rather than just straight park maintenance. Roughly when Matt was here, he changed that. So they redid our whole budgeting and they changed that and they grouped all that money together. So I keep an Excel sheet still based off of that so that I know exactly what we've used it for over the years. And that, because if I have 15,000 in park maintenance is how it's set up now, that I feel like could be used for anything, right? So I want to make sure that there are items in there that we're still keeping track of and we're able to use towards that. So, and signage is something we've always had as well, something that we've always had to replace, whether it be dog signs, dogs on leash is a big one, or dogs not allowed. It used to be dogs not allowed. So we obviously had to change all those at that time too.
So can any printer make the signs? Like if we say, yes, this is the sign, these are all the signs we want for the village. Do we then identify a printer, or do we already know somebody that can support these types of designs?
Yep. So we would send this out to as many of the sign companies as possible to get us the best price. We do an RFP. We're looking for signage. We probably spell out that we would be doing at least one sign a year. So they may knock the price down for us, or 2 signs a year, whatever we're able to do, depending on the price. I have a number of vendors that we can go through, or a number of park and rec departments that have went through a lot of other ones. Obviously, Tim had one that he was working with up in Wausau that gave really good pricing as well. So the more the merrier, I think, and anytime you're doing any proposals for this type of stuff. So, and the nice thing is, I didn't have the exact what the sign would be made of. I think we can talk about that with some of these vendors to see what, if we need to make it more economical. If we put it out there that it has to be the foam board, it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive. So are there other options that they would recommend that would still look look like that as people are coming in. Michael had talked about a metal sign. Maybe that's the option that it goes. So I didn't put that in the actual spec currently, but I think that's something we could update with once we know, best practices or best pricing.
So just to clarify, what we're looking at then is the design and size
Correct.
and intention for each, but not necessarily the materials.
Correct. Tim
Okay.
asked me tonight, what we'd be using, and I said, as of right now, I would like to use that foam. I think that looks the nicest when you do come to an area, but obviously it has a little bit more of a price tag to it. So if there are other options for us, I think we should be open to them.
Okay.
What holds up the best to
What's that?
Unruly
Yeah,
teenagers and such that might damage a sign?
right.
Would that be a metal sign or wood signs or?
Yeah, I mean, I know the public facilities department, I think, is the only one that has one of the foam type signs in front of their building. It's a very large sign. It's held up really well, and it's been here ever since I have been. So it's been at least 15 years now. But yeah, I don't know exactly, what would hold up the best. The metal signs, like I have metal signs at the pool, we have metal signs at the skateboard park. The one at the skateboard park I enclosed because people would hit it with their boards and then, it scrapes the paint right off. So that can be kind of an issue. That could have happened, I'm sure, with a foam board too, though, who knows, but yeah.
So the 2,500 is an estimate for a cost for one sign?
That's the main, I put in there 2,500 because that's the money I have earmarked for signage in our current parks budget. So that's why, knowing that we had that fiscal impact is the $2,500 for signage, for, as we move forward.
And Mike, the reason for the size difference between the mini neighborhood being 2x6 and then the horizontal naming or the community 2x8 is that it's for a bigger area, bigger park, and so it's just a
Right.
bigger sign.
Yeah, community parks versus neighborhood parks. The NRPA has recommendations on the sizes there. So
Okay.
community parks were much larger, or were larger. We're expected to be larger, I guess I should say, than what your neighborhood parks were.
So for us, that would be which parks besides Bear Park?
Just Bear Park, really.
Okay.
The pool or municipal park could also be considered that. Usually, a community park is over 2 acres. So anything else under that is their neighborhood type park. Most of our parks are at the 2 acres or less, other than Bear Park.
Okay.
So Xander Park would be a
Xander Park,
neighborhood.
I'm sorry. Xander Park would also be a community park.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
I really like, looking at page, I think I'm on page, where it says conservancy signage at the top, page 13. I just really like how that signage has like the little snapshot of the map, and the hours, and then the.
Yeah, I do too. The one reason I liked the horizontal and that, or the vertical naming, was that was actually directly from Salt Lake City. They have that, and they have these really cool background layers. I don't know how much their signs cost, but they looked really neat. But the one thing I liked about it is that for the most of our entrances that are going into our open space, conservancies, mountain biking, any of them, most of those entrances are less than a 20-foot easement, right? Some of them are even like 5 or 6 foot easements. So my thought was that really sticks out and shows like, hey, you can walk through here. This is a public access easement. Because a lot of times those access areas are right next to someone's house, or they're in between people's houses or next to the apartment buildings, where people are like, can I walk through there, or is that just for the apartments? So I think that'll really, these would highlight that to them to say, hey, you can come through. And I just threw the map type thing on there. We are getting a new GIS system this year to work here within the village. So we would actually be able to do like a Google map type picture of within that. I don't see that being actually in the sign, but I see that being, something we could change if we needed to. As the trails expand or go different places, we could put a new laminate sign up or something of that sort.
Well, what I like about that too is like now there is no like map indicator if you're from out of town or what, and I see people drive up and park on Bourbon Road and then go into the um, Conservancy trails, and you don't know, is it a loop or is it going to take me out somewhere else? So I like that it shows that.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I really like that. And maybe, I mean, if we wanted to incorporate something like that and even Sander Park signs or other signs, I think we could probably do it. Just, I get a lot of questions, people from Ice Age always, actually a lady was walking all the way to Glacial Valley Park. She was walking up that way because she got lost. And she thought she had to walk out to pee to get back on Ice Age Trail rather than going up Glacial Valley Conservancy, where this sign would be actually. So just more of that like trail recognition, I think in our community, even in Sander Park or going along there could be really helpful.
QR codes would be nice too.
Yes, agree.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I love it. I love that you're making in that Glacial Valley Conservancy sign, if that's ultimately what can be delivered, but you're identifying the activities that trail could be used for, the snapshot. So often as a family, when we're looking at hiking with the kids or even the dog or just ourselves, we're looking to say, how far is this trail?
Mhm.
Am I just petering out and then I'm going to end up, like you said, in somebody's backyard off of, Observatory Road? I've done that before, hiking around
Right.
the village, and it's just, then what, or maybe you go halfway and come back. I mean, it helps people actually recreate. It does that promotion of, I think, of what we're hoping people will come to Cross Plains for, or who live in Cross Plains. I think it's great.
And like it would indicate, like if it were a snowshoe trail or a cross-country skiing, that could be one of those little orange. Like that.
Yeah,
Those
the
types of
sky's the limit in regards to that, how much we really want to have on there. But yeah, I agree. Like trails are open for all year long. At Hickory Hill, for instance, we did cross country ski trails, same with Bear Park, so we could have that on there as well. So
And Mike, just a question on the page that says sign matrix.
Mhm.
The behind the logos on the horizontal signs, there isn't that orange coloring or that orange background behind the logo, but I'm assuming that it should be there in the graphic.
yeah, well, no, I didn't do the orange on those. Mainly, you're talking about the green, or
No,
oh
I'm
no,
talking about
yes.
on the sign matrix page,
Yes,
which is
yes, sorry, yes. The white, you're saying the white behind there?
so
No,
I'm
the
looking at the
orange.
horizontal naming
Oh,
signs don't have
okay.
the orange behind the
Oh,
logo
on
like they do up in the couple pages before.
yes, they should have that on there. So as I made it smaller, I wasn't able, so you have to like group them and then ungroup them. And as I would ungroup them, I couldn't put things behind it anymore. So I think there's too many layers or something in there. But
Okay.
yes, it would have that orange. The horizontal one worked, but the others didn't. I did them in Canva. So.
See, looks really nice, I think.
Mike, how many signs do you think we need to replace in the near future, being the next couple of years? I mean, how many immediately do you think need to be replaced?
After we painted them, it would not have been last summer. We painted them in 2018, painted them brown. I would say I'd have to look exactly, Jed, to see like which ones are worst, like if we wanted to do like what park to do first type thing. I would probably do the ones that people are entering more often than not. I probably to start. Kind of like we do with playgrounds themselves, we're replacing them with how much use they're getting, how many people are going around there. But I mean, obviously Bear Park has two signs currently, and then I'd probably say the pool would be another one the pool currently doesn't have a sign at all. So that would be one that I'd probably do right away as well, or try and do early. But I could come up with that within this document to say, even break out the year per se, or the number when we would replace them.
Well, I think the whole purpose is, so much of this is going to come down to money, as a lot of things do in the village. And, I mean, if we talk about the need for them because of branding and promoting and getting it out there, I mean, if we've got, 5 or 10 that really need to be done and we can't come up with $2,500 per sign, then maybe we have to bring it down. I mean, the other big concern that I would have is, the cost to fix or replace because of vandalism.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that's a realistic possibility. And how does that affect our decisions?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we could ask that within the vendors. We use graffiti remover on a lot of things right now. If that's what the vandalism is, we have quite a bit of that at our shop. But yeah, you're not. I don't disagree with you in that regard. That's anything that you get, I think, within our parks.
Well, and I think you should consider budgeting for or planning for, or however, if what happens with the Lions Pavilion, there should definitely be whatever new signage to unveil Xander Park, maybe as kind of a promotional community build, the legacy pavilion and Xander Park, just really a namesake in the village.
Yeah, I agree.
Something that could be, I mean, would it be part of development agreements for future developments to pay for the signage for that park or playground in the area?
I don't know if we could do that. I know, obviously the parkland dedication money would be, I would take $2,500 in your market towards a sign right away, but I guess we could get creative if we needed to, with some of the parks and some of those areas. Or I say 2,500, who knows? It could be way less than that. I don't know. Could be $500, I should say. So, yeah.
We have a motion to approve the sign policy for the village parks and open space plan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same. Okay, motion passes.
Did everyone vote on that? Are we good?
I did not.
I didn't hear everyone. Do you want to do a roll call? That's fine.
Yeah, why don't we do a roll call?
Well, can I get another question in here before we do this? Because I guess the one thing that I'm not sure of is, like I said, everything's going to come down to budgets. And what are we locking ourselves into by approving this? Obviously, it still has to go back to the village board. We're approving a signage and a size without necessarily a material or a cost associated. Is this just some guidance to move this another step forward? I guess that's where I'm unclear.
So you want to get more into the detail aspect of like the signage, more discussion about the costs? I mean, I was basing it off of what Tim had given us as cost. I mean, that Tim's sign in regards to that would probably be the high end is my opinion. I don't see us going above that in any way, shape, or form.
I guess my fear is that if we approve it and it goes back to the village board and they say, well, what's it going to cost? And then they kick it back to us because of a cost or,
Well, I'm giving them a cost I'm technically saying it won't exceed the $2,500 in my operating budget every year. Now, if they decide to take away the $2,500 from my operating budget, then we have a policy in place that no longer has any funding, and that's on them, I guess. But I'm more or less stating that we wouldn't exceed that amount of money.
And what are neighboring communities doing?
Most of your neighboring communities, this is a capital improvement cost.
So from the whole village.
So for instance, we always talk about branding in this community and how we need to do these things to be on the same page and make everything look great and give identity to our community. if we wanted to do that, we would say, okay, let's do them all at once, and we need $60,000, right, or whatever the number is. But I feel like we're doing it a responsible way, saying that this is funding we have in our current operating budget, and we wouldn't exceed that, as we move forward. Now, if funding were taken away, then you now have a policy that's in place without any funding, and now you try and search for funding for it, right?
But Mike, is this going to take us 20 years to accomplish if we only have $2,500 per year? I mean, is that a reasonable, within 20 years, signs will need to be replaced? I mean, is that a reasonable process to think that we're going to start this and it'll take us that long?
You never know what happens, right? I've had actually the Zander family contact me to ask about putting in a new sign at one time. Now, obviously, Tim had talked about that too. So you just never know, with people in your community, it could be quicker. Maybe there's even a point in there where we ask people for donations for a sign in their park. Or, I think the nice thing is, as we start planning now for our current new facilities that are coming online, we have less to worry about taking care, or less to replace than we would if we weren't to start this now, right? Like we haven't actually put in a new sign since I've been here. We haven't had a new park put in place. So now over the next, 3 to 4 years, we're going to have at least 3 new park facilities. We probably will have 2 or 3 conservancy facilities that'll be added as well. So the village, no matter what, will be spending money on signage, just depending on what signage they really want it to look like.
So I'm thinking, just also, tell me if I'm wrong, Mike, but to Jed's question, we're proposing to the village board this design template, this size template, and anything that's, every year the Parks and Rec budget could handle replacing a sign. However, that's not the only option for getting a new sign. Let's say a year from now, you put in a request for capital improvement funding to replace 10 signs, and that comes out of not out of the parks pot of money, but like the whole village capital improvement. Or we add it to developer agreements in some way, or take it out of the parkland dedication funding with each new development. So there's, signs that are provided that are not part of the 2,500. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this policy is not earmarking how the signs get paid for. It's just saying, if the parks budget could afford to pay this much every year, more signs could happen with other funding. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean it comes down to every year. You never know. I know the village will be getting a large check from the newest stimulus plan that will be going forward. How the village decides to spend that money is on the village trustees, right, at that point. So they kind of get to decide. So at any time, that you just never know. These things could come forward. I'm not saying they're going to say that park signs are that important, but at some point it might be. So, and I think, going this route isn't stating that we have to redo them all, and it could take 20 years. Yes, Melissa, it could take 20 years, right? But at least even within our, new parkland dedication money and/or new parks coming online, those would have new signage. Glacial Valley Park, I'd like to see get new signage just based off of the fact that it's going to have a lot of people coming to it. Obviously, Hillenbrand, Glacial Valley Conservancy, John I. Hillenbrand would be donated by Tim, provided he still wants to go forward with that process. So that would have a new sign. So, we're already knocking a few of them out of the park in regards to that. The new project going forward downtown at Zander Park with the Legacy project, obviously they'd want I would think they would want a new sign as well. So we have that in plans. This is what our sign design is, and here's where you go with it, right? So yes, they're fundraising they're going to be fundraising for a shelter down there, but I guess we'll add a sign for $2,000 too, or whatever it comes out to as cost. So
but theoretically, we put this forward, we could end up with some years where we end up with 5 new signs, and they're not all funded through that $2,500 purse.
Correct. For instance, this last year, if you look at the Parks and Recreation budget, we saved the village roughly $40,000 in parks that we didn't spend money. We normally, you know, what happens when you don't use it, you lose it, right? And it goes into the general fund, which is what happened. But that right there could tell me we could fund almost all of our signage probably throughout our village. And we did that based on the fact that it was a crazy summer, crazy year. What are areas that we know that we can cut that people aren't using, right? And that was we didn't put in any wood chips. We didn't do any rubber mulch throughout there. We didn't get any signs last year. So I think there are years that we can, you know, make up for things hopefully within that, or you know, and then there's also going to be growth in our village as well. So, but I think the overall, like our budget, and just coming from my standpoint, our parks, recreation, and aquatics budget has never went over budget in the 15 years that I've been here. So I don't see you approving a sign right now. Personally, I don't see that being something that, you know, we're gonna overspend on, I should say, Jed.
Well, I guess
I
my
understand
thing
your
is,
concern.
yeah, I mean, I think the next question that's going to come up is, you know, if we did an 8-foot sign versus a 6-foot sign, or a 6-foot sign versus a 4-foot one, what does that save in cost? I mean, I guess my question is can we make the dimensions a recommendation at the time until we see a cost?
Sure.
I mean,
Well,
I certainly understand where you're coming from, and I'm not necessarily, you know, opposed to having good branding and an appropriate sign for the appropriate space. But, you know, I mean, being on the finance committee now and knowing how the village board is looking at things and everything comes down to a cost, you know, that's the one concern, is that it comes back, and that's the one issue. I mean, as far as the design and the layouts, I mean, I think they all look great. Everything's just always going to come down to a cost, and the size is really the size and material are the two costs.
So I'm fine with that. I guess the one thing that I would request then from you is, and from the group, would be what is okay? What is okay for an amount, right? Like, what is okay, the amount of money people pay in taxes, or what, you know, what is the amount of money that you're okay with spending on a sign then? And then I'll go out and ask them, you know, can we get a foam, or can we get a metal, or does it have to be wood, or, you know, I can go and do that, but I'd have to know then what that amount is, because I'm putting something together more based on aesthetics and, you know, trying to get what we want, knowing that if we have to cut, you know, we talk about that. We talk about what the actual sign is made of.
So what you're saying is you think it's better to stick with the plan that you have and take the time and years to get those and to get them right, rather than cutting back initially?
That's always my answer. I really do. I'd rather it take that long and you get what you want, you know, rather than, or you pay a little bit more or whatever it may be, and get what you want, rather than trying to just cut corners all the time. It never works out right.
Is that something that could come back to this committee should the cost of signs be too high? Could the village board ask the Parks Committee, say, hey, we're okay with the design, but, you know, they're just too big? Is that something that, if this policy is in place?
Yeah, I only have those in place based off recommendations for what the signage should be. So we could always make changes to those. You know, the National Park and Rec, that's what they do, is just try to put out guidelines like that. So, but it doesn't say that you have to have a sign like that size. It's more of just making sure that we're, you know, if we meet what this is hoping to do, is have conformity.
So Mike, is this going to come back to us? I mean, I know you said you haven't decided on a material yet, and is that the next step then, is to figure out a material and then the full cost?
Correct. Yeah. Do you want me to you can table this, and the only issue I was hoping to get it through was this being Sarah's last meeting, to get to the village board for her to have more discussion on it with people. But I mean, I'll have a new village board member on my committee. I'm not exactly sure who yet, but whoever's elected, it sounds like. But I'm open to, tabling it until then as well.
I mean, I would be open with everything that's presented. I think if the people who made the original motion were open to a friendly amendment that allows us to change the dimensions once we've seen the costs.
Oh, I don't even think you need that, because you can always just bring back this policy for discussion again. It's a guideline, it's a policy, internal policy for our department, but you could always ask.
So we're
it
not
be on the
committed
agenda.
to it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just moving us forward.
Yep.
Okay, I'm fine with that then.
I guess the one thing I would only ask Sarah is, or Michael, even being both of you are on here, is the cost not to exceed $2,500 per sign, is the way that I've kind of put it forth in here. Is that not going to be good enough for the village board?
I would say leave that out. Because we have no idea. I would say propose the product without a dollar amount to it. This is the proposal of the design and the first recommendation for, dimensions.
Okay. For the dimension side and all that. Okay. They're going to ask for the money. It'll be coming back to parks, I'm sure, then anyways, because I'm sure they'll ask for the money at that point.
But then we have to get proposals, right? As to,
Right.
so.
Mike, would it be possible for you to ask for estimates from
Yeah.
manufacturers and such?
I've actually already sent them out to a number of them just to kind of see, but I didn't receive any back before this meeting, so, or at least not in time for this meeting.
Because we can't hardly get estimates until we have our design.
Right.
And dimension size. So I
True.
guess I'm seeing this policy as design and dimension, not necessarily the breakdown of each cost of each sign, because we can't get the proposals until we know what we're asking for, right?
I'd agree.
Right, but you could still ask for what does a 2x8, a 2x6, a 2x5 sign cost?
Oh, absolutely. And that would be good to know, like if we go with 4x6 versus 6x8, these are the differences, and neighborhood parks, we might, but I think that is something that doesn't have to be in the policy so much, right?
Right. I'd
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, but I will say, a lot of times cost does drive policy, though.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. I'll say that costs change quite
Right.
a
The
bit
sign
from year to year.
5 years,
From year to year. Construction costs right now are pretty crazy, so could weigh in on that too.
So Mike, do you think we want to add that friendly amendment, or is it not needed?
So what was the amendment again? Sorry, Jed.
Well, the question was, do we need to, the motion, as I understand it, was to approve the policy as written.
Correct.
And
as presented.
Yes, the policy presented has a certain dimension for each sign based on a specific purpose.
Okay.
And so the question is do we, are those sizes subject to change based on price? Or can we change those dimensions in the future once we've seen a proposal for a cost per sign?
Yeah, I think those can be changed later. Yeah, and all we'd have to do is we'll just have the same discussion and possible action regarding this. And so you'll talk about, what the sizes should be then. So you make changes to the actual guidelines, which would then bring down the cost or be more of what you want it to be or look like. Because I'm guessing even once we get prices, maybe they're lower than what you thought. So there's a, difference of what you want to add to the other park signs too. So
Why don't, we add some verbiage to the policy that reflects this? So that 5 years from now, when none of us are on any of these committees anymore, there could be, like a footnote saying dimensions subject to cost constraints or sign dimensions subject to further review before approval or something.
Is size, you think, the driving factor as to what the cost will be, or will like number of colors and elements of each sign also be factors?
Yeah.
Both those.
Yep.
Everything will be a factor. You are correct. That's why I was kind of
So the
saying
design,
that we
like
could
you
bring
gotta
it
leave the
back.
dials kind of loose so that you
Yeah.
can dial them up or down and we all meet in the middle.
Right. Right.
Yep.
How about, so you approve this to go forward to the village board, no matter what, it's going to be on next month anyways in regards to the costs. And so we can discuss the size of the projects or size of the signs even more next month. And I can try and get, some direction if you'd like to see all of them 2x6 or, 1x5, whatever you want them to be. I can get some costs more for next meeting as well. But at least this pushes it on to the village board for their discussion points of, signage within our parks.
And allows you to get more accurate proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we take a roll call vote then on the motion to approve the sign policy for village parks and open space as presented tonight.
All right. Sarah Borkard,
Yes.
Melissa Hinz,
Yes.
Jennifer Bonte,
Yes.
Jed Henry,
Yes.
and Trustee Francois.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, the motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action regarding the exterior painting of the Cross Plains Pool Bathhouse.
Okay. So
Hey, Mike, I need to hop off. I'm sorry. I have to
Okay.
run off to my other meeting.
that's
But
fine.
can I just put my vote in for option D?
D, sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, that sounds good. I'll talk about it further, but I'll have that at least in there for you or from you.
Yeah. And if you guys decide something else, then, it is what it is, but that would be my vote.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, so following would have been our last meeting or two meetings ago, you had me talk with Emily about coming forward with some possible options of color, of which she didn't want to pick. After that, she said, I don't want to pick any of those colors. So I went back to the drawing board here to try and figure out what could work or what would work and try and get some costs put into place here as well. The blue and or gray, I felt were like the only two options that really fit the building or like how it was set up. I tried crazy colors. I tried so many different ones. I even tried to get our staff here to like vote in or do it themselves. Like Bobby next door was like, hey, what color would you like? Oh, I don't like that blue. Oh, I don't like that gray. And I was like, well, look at the color that it currently is. Like, you can't like that, right? And now I know you don't because we just power washed it. But so what I've presented you isn't saying like this has to be the colors we choose or route we go. However, I would be happy if you liked one of these and said that you were good with it. The one issue that we really have though is that if we do white, I really like the idea of doing white. So we have white doors because the doors that we currently have there are that brown. And obviously, what happens when the sun hits those doors, they swell and they're hard to open from time to time, or even touching them, they're really hot. So it's, I was hoping to do a white color. The problem I had with it is once I put the white doors on there and I didn't change the brown like peaks, it looked hideous. Like it looked really bad. So it's either, we do white and the color or we do the brown. The real problem I have with doing white as well is that if we change the white, now the fascia and soffit on the side of it, underneath, that's all brown. So we'd have to paint that white or we'd have to get new fascia. So obviously, which would increase the cost to this project. So once again, a project that is, all the labor's donated. We have the Stingrays that wanted to do this like 2 years ago now as a project, community service type project. Money would, I have recommended that the money for the project come from the pool improvement fund, which, you know, within my memo states, and I asked Bobby for sure, but we do have $46,000 in there. The money, the 46,000 comes from $5. Comes from each person's pool membership. Also $5 from each person's swim lesson goes into this pool improvement fund that's set aside for an improvement to the facility. Or the whole thought before this thing started was that would be money that would be used to update our facility, get a new facility. So it's yours to decide.
Can we see if we can narrow down between gray and blue to start?
Sure.
Do people want gray or blue?
Sure. Do you want me to share this, or can you guys see it, or do you have it?
I mean, I pulled it up on my phone. That's what I'm
Okay.
looking at, but
I can share it.
yeah, it'd probably be a good thing.
Thinking blue just because it would be easier to keep clean, I think. Or like it would hide the dirt.
Yeah, I like the dress blue. the
I do
dark blue of the blues.
I'm blue
Oh.
too. So, okay.
Yeah.
So if we can
All
take
right.
out gray,
This is
then the
easy.
question is dark blue or light blue?
I'm
Yeah.
dress blue,
Me too.
Which one?
white. I'm option C.
Oh, option C. Dress blue.
That's just me, dress blue with white.
Dress blue with white. That you said.
Yeah, that's my preference, but
Is the peak then, is that white also?
The what?
Is the peak, like the triangle part, is that
Yeah.
white?
So, yep. So there'd be 4 of those total, and those would all be white then. Yeah. They're all brown right now.
It just looks gray in the picture. I think that's where the question's coming from.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Well, I could.
gray wouldn't be bad with the blue.
I know, I was wondering about
Oh.
gray because it wouldn't show the dirt so much.
Yeah. What is the name of that again?
I'm so surprised that Emily wasn't in all over this.
She was
It's-
texting me saying she was really wishing the doors would be yellow.
Oh, because stingrays.
She said that right now.
Yeah,
What? She
No,
never
then
said that to me.
We could, these elements, we can refine those.
yeah, I
You
mean,
could
that's-
also get really crazy with it and do like a community mural contest. Whoever wins can mural the doors or the peaks if they could work on a ladder.
well, that would be the nice thing of having a white door, is it would be easy to add on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, now I could see like a big sun on the,
Uh-huh.
All right, I have a question. Jennifer or Sarah, do you just want to take this project on?
Oh.
I've been working on this, I feel like forever and not really getting anywhere, mainly because I
yeah.
don't like picking colors. It always like worries me. Like, oh, it's going to look terrible for so long. That's up there for quite a while.
Oh my God, a sun.
I
So
like
this-
option C because I think we could easily add things later. Like, I think it's a nice starting point.
I mean, I was all for the white until you told me the extra work that came with it. And then
And I don't know, can you paint soffit? It's got the vents in it. So I would think you'd probably have to take them down and like do an aerosol or something, I don't know.
I painted my house a while back, and if you use a sprayer, you can get away with it. And I don't know if you're, going to factor that in. I mean, those are pretty cheap to rent. I mean, I would almost never roll again. I mean, I painted aluminum siding on the rental property that I had, and it just goes so much faster. If you don't have a flat surface, using rollers and brushes are just too difficult.
Yeah, and that I do have I put in there for rollers, for them to use rollers, but you're right, like that masonry, I mean, it's been up since 1960, so there's a lot of pits in it and stuff. And there'll be some areas that we'll have to refurbish, we'll have to put in some cement and stuff, but yeah. I didn't think about renting a sprayer. I don't know, where do you rent that from? Just
Any of the paint stores you can get them from.
I know you could buy them, but they were like really expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure. I swear we rented it. My buddy used to paint for a living, and he either borrowed one or rented one. I'm sure that you can rent them at a decent cost. Because the problem is when you have uneven surfaces and you have a roller, what happens is then you get all kinds of runs.
Yeah.
And you have a really tough time getting into all of the crevices and all that. Where when you have a sprayer, it's such a thin amount that it goes into all that and it makes life easier. And like when we did the soffits and all that stuff, I mean, we basically, one person held a giant piece of cardboard that blocked it. And then you spray all the stuff up above that's hard to mask off and worry about. And then, we basically did the same thing down below when we painted the main part of the house. So.
I'm trying to pull up the Sherman-Williams site that I did all this on and like make sure that it was a white, or I could try and push them gray and show them to you as well. But
what are you looking for today, Mike? A color
approval of the colors if possible, or at least approval of the project, approval of us using the pool improvement money. Of course, it doesn't show up.
So who likes, are we all with the dress blue or are we still considering the lupine blue?
I like dress blue.
Yes. So option D looks like my house. So that's why it's a little hard for me to kind of break from that because I was up against the same, Mike. So, but anyway, so definitely dress blues for me.
How about you, Jen?
I like the lighter one, the lupine, but I mean, it's hard, not seeing it on the building always concerns me a little bit. It can look darker. I mean, and the thing is, if you go with the darker one and then you go the lighter color, it can balance it out better. If you go with the lighter color, then you might want a darker door. So I think it could go either way. But I would not have, it would not hurt my feelings if we went with the darker dress blue.
Okay. Does anyone like the serious gray in place of the white or brown?
I thought we got rid of that right away.
Oh, well, just because Sarah and I had both mentioned maybe mixing gray on top.
Well,
you're talking about just in the peaks?
I'll try and do one of those for you real quick.
Wow, look at you.
I did get really good at this, I'll tell you that. Like, if I can find all the colors for sure. Let's see.
So we're out with the brown. Jed's given us confidence in the sprayer option.
The problem with the sprayer option is it takes away from the team building and the group activity. I mean, because you're probably only going to rent 2 sprayers and you've got basically 4 people. I mean, people can take turns. I mean, if you're rollering it, and I haven't looked at the building, I should, I didn't really think about it until we started discussing it. But, I mean, if it's a bunch of kids that are getting together and they're all doing rollers, that's nice and it's fun and, it could work fine. But
well, you could also do a bunch of shifts. That'll be a bunch of coats too. I mean, you have to prime
yeah,
it.
because you're gonna have a bunch of trim too, even if you do the sprayer option, right? I mean,
yeah, there'll be plenty to do. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I get what you're saying too. Like if you got everyone up there with rollers, I mean, you could have 40 people up there at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. This thing's thinking too much now. Come on. What happened? All right, sorry. I don't know. This doesn't want to load. Glad I saved one.
Well, we can,
I mean,
Maybe-
can we just approve the 3 colors and just say the main part of the building has to be one of the blues?
Sure.
And then,
Yeah, I can always, it's more probably about the money than anything. You can always, my whole hope and plan though is that as soon as we break weather where it's warm enough for 4 or 5 consecutive days, we're going to start on this because it looks terrible right now and I want it done before the season starts.
okay.
That's kind of my big thing.
so the more input you can get now, the better it is.
Yeah, the better off. I mean, we just know then I can start ordering it too, and I can look at even the painting, the sprayer.
So,
generally.
only part of the work, right, is actually be laying down the color, right? So you're going to prime the building, right?
Mhm.
Right? So
Yep.
the primer is going to be in itself a job.
Mhm.
The trim work, even when you roller it out, if you do rollers, you have to use brushes to get in those crevices, stop the drips. I guess, were you and Mike, was somebody from Parks and Rec going to oversee the
Yeah.
Stingrays doing this?
Yeah. I am.
Because, like the
Well,
eight
that was even like
hunters,
drop cloths. We don't want a lot of paint all over the ground, so drop
Uh-huh.
cloths and stuff are in there as well as a cost. And I was actually hoping to get a paint that has a primer in it.
Mm.
Is the plan, so that you only have to do the 1 coat or 2 coats, most likely, if possible. But I thought on masonry, like that should be fine.
I don't know, is the plan for the children to paint or the families, like the
Both.
parents?
I think both. I mean, we can decide. We can tell them, I guess, but
Right.
If you want to get it done quickly, I would suggest no children, just the parents.
Right?
yeah.
But the kids can like hand out lemonade and like.
Go
do-
I
clean
can talk to Jeff
brushes.
about that part. I think, I do want it done quickly. I think that's key, before we open and making sure we find, I mean, once you start on it, you obviously want to get it done because
It will take you all.
rain or anything like that's going to push you back a little bit. So what's that?
I think having kids involved in the actual painting would extend the length of time like 10 times.
Yeah, maybe we'll just give them like a corner of the building or something, but yes, I will be overseeing the project itself and being a part of it most likely. And so any of you want to be a part of it, you can come forward and donate some time, more time. Side of this
Be
stuff.
there.
Or the kids have to be, maybe the 15 to 18s getting help, but
Right.
Yep.
Jeff Mahoney said he would deal with all the volunteer side of it, so getting people there. So I don't see that being a problem. I think most people will be excited, to see a new color on there.
Mhm.
So
Was the rest of the consensus the dark blue? Did everybody like the dark blue except me?
I think
I
so.
think so.
Okay, so can we just decide on that?
Yep. Do you want to just do option C? Is that or option C? All right.
Sure.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, let's do a motion. You can approve the colors or the option. You can do option C, that's fine. Along with approval of funding for it, if you could, please, or if you would like to.
Mike, do we need to reconsider if you're gonna try to do sprayer, rent one, or,
Yeah, I don't have that in that price. I know that.
I mean, I assume since this is being paid for by pool fees that, raising it a little bit doesn't hurt anything, does it?
No, it just would take more out of, like, there's 46,000 in there. So it would just be approving more, say not to exceed. I don't know how much a painter is or
Should we say not to exceed 2,500 instead of the 2,100?
That's what I was thinking was 2,500.
think. Okay. Or you could just say, yeah, that's fine. You could do that. And if it came back for more, I would just come back to you to ask for more money.
Yeah,
That's fine. So,
So I'll make the motion as my last
yeah,
part here. So I'll make a motion that we approve the exterior painting of the Cross Plains Pool Bathhouse, option C as presented, not to exceed, the cost not to exceed $2,500 from the Pool Improvement Fund.
One point of clarification, Sarah, because what we're seeing here shows gray in the peak, is it gray or white?
that's a good. Is it really? It should be white.
I think it's white. I think it's just like because the picture's kind of in the shade. Because if
Yeah.
you look at the gray, it looks like a different color.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to make sure that,
Oh,
You
yeah.
want gray or white though?
It said option C says reflective white.
Yeah, it should be the
Okay.
same as that, but it
okay,
does.
so that's
look
what it
gray.
is.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same. Okay, the motion passes. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Mike, I'll call my friend and see if I can find out about a sprayer and what to get.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
I was just
All right.
like,
Thanks, everybody. Keep the love going.
What's that?
Home
Keep up
Depot.
the love, you know, with the PRC. Can't wait to see what you guys do.
And I
What,
just
No
looked
pressure.
online, and Home Depot also rents paint sprayers.
what was it?
Home Depot,
Home Depot? Okay,
they were just the first one on my search, so I'm guessing that'll be pretty easy to find.
nice. I didn't really think about that, so good call.
Okay, bye.
Perfect. Thanks,
Hey.
everyone.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
I might have a sprayer you can use that would be fine for the job. It doesn't hold a whole lot of paint, but it'd be good for those peaks. And we can get together and then look at it as an option too.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Can't close it out.